Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another Warframe video. I'm going to premise this very early by saying spoilers for the new Warframe. If you don't want to see anything about the new Warframe, you don't want to see her abilities, what she does, etc., then click off right now because we are going to be talking about Jade in this video. I also want to point out that this video will be unscripted. I just want to throw it together really quickly because I've been having so much fun with this frame, and there's a build that I specifically want to talk about that's very, very strong. With that said, let's get straight into it. So Jade is the new frame that's come out. She was, or at least from what I've read, she was somewhat advertised as a support healer, of some kind of DPS healer, something like support DPS. I don't know. And she is. She pretty much lives up to that. Less on the support side of things, but definitely on the DPS side of things. And she's extremely enjoyable to play. Now, before I get into the build, I do want to also premise this is a build that I invested in. This is not a 0 former, 1 former, easy build. This is not a build for new players. There is a lot of stuff I'm using in this that costs a lot of platinum, and it's just kind of hard to get if you haven't played the game for a while. But with that said, let's get into it. So for shards, just to clarify on the shards, a lot of these are optional. I like these two Talforged Amber Archon shards for the energy orb. This is kind of like a pseudo nourish. Really helps with the energy upkeep because the drain isn't that high when you're in her fourth ability. This 15% ability strength is just so I can get over the 200% mark. And then these two here, I would probably put either two Talforged Topaz ones with this on it for the bonus secondary critical chance, or if you don't have access to these yet, or you don't want to, waste 2 shards doing it, just 2 Talforged Crimson shards for secondary crit chance will be fine. It's a similar setup to what you'd probably run on Mesa, basically. You kind of want to run her like Mesa. This is the build I'm running on her. Now, it might look a little weird, okay? You might be like, ready, steal, combat discipline. The hell is this about? You'll see. It is of note that my Arcane Avenger is one off being maxed, but that doesn't matter. If you have one that's maxed, it'll just be better. But this is what you need. Her unique passive is that she has 2 aura slots, which is really nice because it just means you have to put less former in her because you just get more room. If I was going to put another former in her, it would either be an Umbra former or probably one of these ones, the what's it called, Vazarin ones. For this. That way I could switch this out for Constitution just to get that 4% extra duration. This is not a min-maxed build by any means. There's probably a few things that can be switched around. This is just more of a proof of concept, but it's also like you could use this forever and it would be completely fine. Quick overview of what she does. Her passive is she has 2 aura mod slots. Some of her abilities apply judgments, which when an enemy is marked via a judgment, they are more vulnerable to damage by 50%. So it's a 1.5x multiplier to damage. Her first ability is basically a pool of 8 pool of fire stuff that heals you. That's kind of it. It also marks enemies, as you can see by the little picture. It marks them when they get hit by it. Her second ability has 3 uses. It's like a hold and tap cast. So you've got a shield buff, a strength buff, and a damage buff. All of these apply to you and allies. It doesn't actually mention how far it is. I would imagine it's maybe affinity range, but it doesn't say on here, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't know what the range is on this, but they do apply to allies. The strength buff is nice, and it's very, very handy. You basically, as you'll see in the gameplay in a minute when I go in a mission, you pop that first, you pop Power of the 7 first, then you pop your other abilities, and that busts your other abilities. And it is of note as well, you do not have to recast this to switch. You can just switch the ability by tapping it, and it just swaps the buff. You cannot stack all 3, and there is no point in recasting it unless you want to refresh the timer. Because also when you kill enemies that are marked by judgment, it extends the duration of this buff by 2 seconds as well, which is actually very nice, as you'll see. A Phantomize is basically an armor strip and a slow, but it does it over time. So my current strength, it gives me a 21%. So over 5 seconds, I'll fully armor strip enemies. It's quite nice. 29 meters. It's respectable. It's a 70-degree angle, so it's kind of like Terrify. It doesn't do everything behind you, but it serves the purpose. You could absolutely subsume over this if you wanted. If you wanted to put Raw here, which is what I think I might do, I think Raw will give me more bang for my buck, and I will just mod her Exalted for Corrosive, but further testing is required. Again, this is just a proof of concept. And finally, the star of the show, Glory on High. This is a channeled ability where you float in the air and fire down little projectiles that explode and set enemies on fire and do damage. If an enemy has been marked by judgment, which is this little symbol here above their heads, and you alt fire with this, it will explode those and do like 10 times the damage to them. You also get 50% damage reduction while in the air, which is why I'm running Aviator. That gets me to 90%, which as far as I know is the damage cap for like aerial invulnerability or aerial damage reduction. It caps at 90%, so there's no point running this, and then, you know, aerodynamic doesn't stack. 90% is the limit, from what I understand. Arcane Avenger is why we have Combat Discipline on, so we can self-proc this. And Arcane Velocity works with her Exalted, because her Exalted are indeed a secondary weapon. I'm going to have a quick sip of my drink. As for the actual mods themselves, Archon Vitality for more health and to double the heat procs from her 4 and her 1, so less this and more this. Also, the extra health is nice for Combat Discipline. This is flexible. You can put kind of really whatever you want here. This is what I've found most success with. And the rest of the mods are Prime Continuity, Transient Fortitude, Umbral Intensify for strength and duration, a bit more duration from Organ Message, Adaptation, of course, Prime Flow and Stretch. Now, this is where things get a little bit more complicated. On your secondary weapon, you will need a maxed secondary outburst. What this does is when you swap from your melee weapon to a secondary weapon, it consumes all of the combo that is on your melee weapon and increases your secondary weapon crit chance and critical damage by 20% per combo consumed for 30 seconds. I believe at max, this is, I want to say 260% weapon crit and crit chance and crit damage for 30 seconds. You don't need any mods on this. Unless you're planning on using this, you don't, like, this can just be whatever, Garbo, it doesn't matter. I'm just using the Occucore because it's what I had on at the time. Now, this is where things get even more complicated. So you will need the Ceramic Dagger and the Incarnate, which is why I said this is not a noob-friendly build. This is not a new player build. This is for endgame players, mainly. And you will need to have it at least evolved to here. This doesn't matter. Once again, unless you're planning on using this, doesn't matter. And as you'll see, I'm not using this. 20 initial combo from this. This is what you want. And you want this specific one, Gun and Blade. Every primary kill you get gives you one initial combo, stacking up to 100 times. So this is 100 initial combo when you've had 100 kills, which is why I'm using the Boar Prime. Basically, you just want to run whatever primary does a lot of damage. Excuse me, Lotus. Do you mind? You just want something that can do a lot of damage. So you can run Torrid, you can run Boar, you know, Brain Burst, whatever your best weapons are that will kill 100 enemies as quickly as possible. Use those. I'm just using the Boar because I've been messing around with a Corrosive Blast build, and as you'll see with the new Shotgun Elementalist mod, this thing is really fun. On the Ceramic Dagger as well, you will need Covert Lethality, and you will need Corrupt Charge, and you will need a Riven with at least 30 initial combo. The rest of the stats are relevant. Melee Crescendo, the only reason I have this on, you don't need this on if you have 30 initial combo on this, Covert Lethality and Corrupt Charge, and then the evolutions. That will get you to 12 times combo straight away with no setup required. If you do not have a Ceramic Dagger Riven, or perhaps you're missing one of these mods, you can put Melee Crescendo on there and just get a couple of finish kills. All that matters is getting to 12x initial combo permanently. So for the sake of this, I'm going to leave this on because literally none of these other ones matter. This doesn't matter. Unless you need it, need it to make up for losing one of these. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The weapon itself, this is kind of what I'm running. You want Galvanized Diffusion, you want some crit modded on there. And I have it built for Viral and Heat right now because I'm still using her armor strip. If you subsume over her armor strip for something like Raw, because with the status changes, you don't really need full armor strip as much. You could benefit equally as much from just running Corrosive. So I think I'm going to be putting Raw over 3, and I'll mod this for Corrosive, but for now it's on Viral Heat. But you can, again, run Corrosive Heat if you are subsuming over her armor strip. So if you're not armor stripping, use Corrosive Heat. If you are armor stripping, use Viral Heat. Lethal Torrent, Hornet Strike, Anemic Agility, Pistol Pestilence. This is just the kind of basic setup. Alright, let's get into a mission and I will show you how this works. Of course, if you do not have one of the mods finish your combo and you need to build some finishers, Eximers, Heavy Gunners, they're all quite easy to do. I'm going to be doing this on Circulus because I always use this mission to test. A lot of enemies, they're level 200. Yeah, they're pretty beefy enemies. So I'm going to start off by killing these guys. The board does take a minute to get charged up, but, well, they blow up. But you'll see, once I get these kills, it just is crazy. So I'm going to put down my heal here, just because of combat discipline. Because I'm not in the air as of right now. And we're just going to work on getting 100 kills. As you can see, Boar is extremely good. If I enable her armor strip, it's even better. It changed the damage so much, and the little explosions are about 5 meters. So it's pretty substantial stuff. Pretty substantial indeed. Put the damage boost on. Yeah, you'll see what I mean. You see how... So right now I have 20 seconds of the damage buff. You can see it like bottom right. If I switch, it just switches instantly over to whatever the next one is that I'm using. It's very nice. And then I can hold to recast it. So we're at 95 kills now. Okay, we are at 100 kills. So now you'll see that I'm just at 12x combo on this thing, on my ceramic dagger all the time. So what you do is you pop your increased strength buff from that. You pop your 3, you pop your 4, and then you switch to the damage boost. And then because you've switched to your 4, that counts as secondary, that consumes your 12 times combo multiplier and gives you the bonus crit damage and crit chance of 240%. It is. You can see it top right in one of my buffs. It's 240%. For 30 seconds, and it makes you very, very powerful. You can also, if there's a group of enemies like this, you can cast your 1 over there and then alt fire, and it will do a lot of damage, 10 times the damage. And once the buff runs out, as it has now, you see I'm only doing yellow crits now. I simply come out of my 4, you'll see my initial combo builds back up, and once it hits 12 times, I simply go back into it. Recast my 3 and keep going. You'll see that my 2 never runs out of duration because I'm constantly marking enemies and killing them. So I never have to worry about refreshing the timer on my 2. And these are steel path enemies, some of which are armored. And it just, Eximus doesn't matter, goodbye. Eximus doesn't matter, goodbye. All these guys in here doesn't matter, goodbye. Oh, what's that? There's a group of enemies here. Cast my 1, cast my alt fire, everything's dead. My buffs ran out. Simply hop out of my 4, wait a couple seconds for it to build back up. Straight back in it. It is extremely strong and, more importantly, extremely fun. You can also, if you're like, oh, you know, I'm getting a little bit hurt, you can switch to the shield buff. It's quite nice. As you can see, my shields, it gives you overshield. It recharges your shields quite quickly. But I find I don't really need it with all the damage resist I get in the air. It really makes me feel like there's one Valorant character where you like have knives that float around you. It kind of makes me feel like that. Like my buff's down. Sometimes I instantly start at 12x combo, and I'm not sure why exactly. But either way, as long as you're at 12x before you come back into her 3, that's all that matters. Get my 3 back up. Switch back to the damage boost on my 2. Throw this over here. Boom. Throw that over there. Boom. And that, bearing in mind, I want to also mention that if I put down a pool here and mark enemies here, and I put down a pool here and mark enemies here, and I put a pool down here and mark enemies here, my alt fire will hit any enemies. It's any enemy that is marked. You don't need line of sight. Any enemy that is marked, you can just insta-kill them. That's all. Or as long as they're marked, they die. Straight back out, straight back in. 12x is back up. Alright, Acolyte is spawning in. So I'm going to refresh the duration of this. Well, I didn't need to refresh the duration of that. As you can see, energy upkeep is just not an issue. You'll see this guy spawns in. Oh, well, he's gone into a wave form, but instantly dead. And just not even, and because you're in the air, not even remotely a concern. The only guy you have to maybe go, ooh, I might want to pay attention to him, is the guy that magnetizes you with like the mag bubble around you. That kind of sucks. You also do have to watch out for the new Jade Eximus, because they will hurt you. These guys that shoot these things at you. You also can't seem to shoot them. But yeah, those guys you want to kill, because those beams will hit you in the air, and they do a lot of damage. Like a stupid amount of damage. Yeah, as you can see, this is very fun. Thracks are just no problem. And it's also worth noting, when these guys are marked, you do bonus damage to them to anything. It's 50% damage vulnerability, so my amp does 50% more damage to them. It's very nice. Right, but yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this build. It is very fun. It is very strong. And yeah, I'm going to head to extract, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Adios.